Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show. On this podcast, you'll learn from professional players, coaches, and executives from all over the world and see the court in a brand new way. And now, joining you courtside, your Gen Z host, John Hartofilis.
Curtis, what's going on?
Yo, what's up, John, man? It's nice to see you. It's been like 2 weeks.
It's been a while since we, unfortunately, since the Grizzlies were eliminated from the playoffs and we recorded a division breakdown with them. But honestly, awesome seeing you. We normally have our cameras off for those videos, so I finally get to actually see you for the first time in a while. Can't wait to hopefully see each other in Vegas Summer League. We've been talking about it for forever, and hopefully this stuff's happening. But this episode, right, with the Grizzlies having their season having just ended, is long overdue. I'm excited to finally tell our listeners, maybe they've heard you, and if you're listening to this right now and going, where do I know that voice from? It's Curtis Johnson from all the Southwest Division breakdowns. So if that's where you've heard that voice before. But right, they've heard your voice, they haven't seen your face, and they definitely don't know your story. So I'm really excited to share that with our listeners.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm definitely I'm excited to share with you some of the stuff that you don't know about me and to some of the viewers.
Exactly. Some of the stuff I don't even know. So, I mean, and that's why, right? I know about some of the Grizzly stuff. I know about the bubble stuff you did in the bubble, which is cool, but I'm going to take it way back, right? Let's go and it's not like it's that far back, right? We're both super young, but talking about maybe your first steps right into this basketball world at the University of Memphis, right? Where you got your degree, you really started things up there, but you were doing some cool things on the side, maybe in radio and speaking, which I think is pretty cool because that's kind of leading you to what you're doing now. So if you could tell us a little bit about maybe some of those first opportunities you took, maybe as a senior in high school, your first year at Memphis, that made you realize, okay, basketball is what I want to do.
Definitely. So like starting off, like my first introduction to sports, kind of like working in the field, was working at a radio station, Blythe, Arkansas, where I'm from, my hometown. Always knew I wanted to work in sports. I didn't grow past like 5'7", 5'8", so I kind of knew right away, like, you're not gonna play in the NBA unless like I just had crazy skills, which I didn't, and I still don't at this current point in time. So I was like, so how can I get involved with working in the NBA, because basketball is my favorite sport, passion. I love NFL too. With basketball, it just sticks out to me. I love the game of basketball. And my dad, he told me, my cousin, he works at a radio station in Blythe, Arkansas called KJM 93.9. And they have an internship that you can do for, I believe it's like 6 to 8 months. And I reached out to him and talked to him, told him what I was trying to do. At the time, it may surprise me, I was wanting to go into journalism because I like Stephen A. Smith a lot. And I was like, well, I want to do journalism, so I'll be around the game. I'll get to talk to the players, do media and things of that nature. And like literally once I got to college, I did the internship with KJM 93.9 until the end, 6, 8 months. Learned a lot from my cousin working there. The ins and outs, like the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see, like when you're in the control room, broadcasting live on air. Every day I was how you get your resources, like Steve and Nathan do, their inside person that they'll never tell, like, hey, how many points did John have last night? What was the final score? Me not having to go to the game because like social media was not a thing, believe it or not, like 6 years ago, like it is now. You just can pop up your phone and be like, oh, Arkansas lost to Milwaukee by 10 points, and this guy was the leading scorer, having to tap into those resources. I'd happen to have like a buddy that actually played for the high school team, and he would text me the scores, the points that they would have. And it taught me a lot about just having a lot of networking connections. So that way, even today, it helps you get along in the business world and just move up quicker. More people, and it opened up a lot of doors for you. So that it was a great experience for me working at KJM 93.9. And as I said, going to my first year in college, this is when I met my counselor. I believe her name is Miss Brox. And I was talking to her, and they were like, well, what do you want to do? It's your first time, like in high school, you still think like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I told her, I was like, well, I want to work in sports. I want to be work in journalism. And she was like, do you like to write? I was like, nah. I'm like, no, not really. She was like, well, you sure you want to do journalism? And I was like, well, I'm like, I want to work in sports, so I don't know what I really want to do. And I told her, I was like, well, I want to work in the NBA as a general manager. And she told me the best way to do it probably be get a degree in business instead of sports, because if I just got a degree in sports, I would just have like a narrow window, like I only kind of can work in sports with that degree. But if I get business, it's broad and I can do a lot of things on my way to working in the NBA or whatever the case may be. I have a lot more avenues versus just this one narrow path. So I end up doing that, getting a degree in business administration with a concentration in human resources during my time at the University of Memphis, thanks to her and listening to my mom. And it was a great time at the University of Memphis. My first introduction, my first 2 years, I didn't even work in sports. Like it was so hard to get in because at the time we had Josh Pastor was the coach. And it just was like impossible. Like I would always go up there, you know how it is. Like the guys are busy, recruiting. The head guys are not there, like director of basketball that they have. Like it's just hard to get in touch with those guys. So end up like one day I literally was walking over and I saw a guy's named Drayden Terry. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to get into sports. I thought it was like tight end coach. It's like you tight end. And he was like, no, I probably could have played some tight end probably in high school, but I can now. And I just had like sparked up a conversation with him, and he told me, he's like, well, hey, don't work like as a tight end in football or basketball or anything, but what I do is sponsorships for the game day. I do like game day sponsorships. So, you know, you're more than welcome to come in for an interview if you like it or we like you, you know, mutual thing. We love to have you be a part of the team. So I say fast forward about 2 weeks later, I had got his email. I reached back out to him. He reached back out to me. Did an interview with him, end up getting one of the positions they had part-time, part of their game day staff. And I had an interview as well with the guy next door in marketing. It's weird. They were like literally next door. And I was like, well, can I work both? Yeah, because I was like, I'm trying to get most experience I can. This is my first time working in sports. And they both let me do both because one of them was paid and one wasn't. But I still, you know, gave 100% to both of them while I was there. And that kind of was my first introduction to actually working in sports. I got to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, working even soccer games. Like I worked every sport at the university, soccer, baseball, softball, basketball, football, you name it. They had a crowd, like I was there, volleyball. I worked everything. So it gave me an eye opener to like everything that happens behind the scenes, like the photo shoots that the players do, or what you see on the screen when they're like with their best friend, or like you're trying to figure out the hum of the song. It just gave me an eye opener, like everything that goes on behind the scenes working at the University of Memphis and the college aspect. And it gave me a lot of experience. So I'm definitely grateful for them. Tiger Sport Property, Learfield, and University of Memphis Marketing Department.
Super cool, right? And thinking about just your college career and how you did whatever you could to get involved. And it didn't always, like the end goal was always basketball, but right, doing things like volleyball games and other sports to get experience on the University of Memphis, and then obviously branching out to doing what you really want to do after you graduated. So that's kind of what I want to key in on maybe is after graduating, right? It's obviously, like you touched on a little bit earlier, how hard it was maybe to make those connections and to find your way in that industry. How did you go from being a sports marketing intern at Memphis, graduating, and then time in between ending up with the Grizzlies, and then later on the NBA and doing what you're doing now?
Yeah. And before we go forward, like I like to point out, like I went through like 3 college coaches my time at the University of Memphis. I had Josh Passenger, Tubby Smith, and then Penny Hardaway came. So like imagine trying to get in and like really if you got in, like you get a new coach and they may not want you because, you know, some coaches like bringing their new staff or they like to, you know, just start new. So like imagine going through 3 head coaches in the span of like 4 years, like having Josh Passenger, Tubby Smith, and then you had Penny at the last year. So a lot of crazy stuff went on, but, you know, hopefully they'll get back on track with Penny. You know, they won NIT this past year. So definitely great things. Look like it's on the horizon for Memphis basketball and college too. And to go off your point, working in the NBA, I actually started in the NBA G League. A lot of people don't know that. They think, you know, because I post a lot of Grizzly pictures that I started with the Grizzlies, but I actually started with the NBA G League, our hustle team. It all started like, man, honestly, LinkedIn, I'm sure you've done it a million times too, like LinkedIn, somebody like, hey, man, I'm trying to, you know, do this. Even with your interviews, you're like, hey, you mind, you know, come on my show, Gen Z Hoops. And, you know, they're either respond. It's like, you know, I tell people all they can say is yes, no, or don't respond. So like literally, what do you have to lose? So I think I looked him up on the Memphis Grizzlies website, and I was like, type in equipment manager or basketball operations staff, and I'm like, who can I DM? Or, you know, I'm just trying to get my foot in the door, obviously, and come across his name. I direct messaged him, was like, hey, I see you guys got a position up here. Was wondering, if I could apply for this job, could I get an interview? I really want to work in basketball. And, my Ozzy actually reached back out. Well, he, wrote back to me in the DMs and he was like, I don't have anything available for the Memphis Grizzlies, but we have something available for the Memphis Hustle. And we still were brand new at the time because I think this was like our second year being in South Haven, Mississippi with the Memphis Hustle. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely interested. So went from there, and I would say like a week or two weeks later, got a call for an interview with our equipment manager to this day with the Hustle. She actually got LeBron shoes, Bree. So I'm sure you just type in the girl that got LeBron shoes, you'll know definitely who I'm talking about. And she reached out to me, did an interview with her, went well, and I got hired. And I would say I probably, was with the Hustle for like 2 months, roughly 2 months. I know I was there at least a month, but roughly 2 months. And then like a couple of guys from the Grizzlies, like they just had left for whatever reason, just maybe didn't see like a future with it or whatever the reason were. And they like literally called me and it was like, hey, do you want to move up, work with the Grizzlies? And I was like, heck yeah, like who wouldn't want to work for the pro team? And like we were winning at the time too, everything was going right. This one we still had like Mike Conley. This year we had like Garrett Temple, Jermichael Green, all those guys before like the trade deadline came, they got traded, but everything was going well and end up going up to the Memphis Grizzlies and, been there ever since. I'm still there now. The season didn't go, once I got there, kind of went like the opposite direction once I got there. Like it was a lot of winning and joyful times to, we were losing like close games, and as it does in basketball, like it's like any sport, like one loss turns into 8 losses in a row. You go like on a 2-game win streak, but if you lose 4, like you never get your momentum back. And I believe that's the deadline, like when they traded Jermichael and Garrett to the Clippers. And I want to say Mark got traded that year. He got traded to Toronto and ended up winning the championship. So, congrats to Big Spade Marc Gasol. He won the championship. But that's kind of like, I would say, I guess you would say like our rebuilding, you would say, started. This just, having to start over, the grit and grinder, like obviously was coming to an end and, just trying to figure out the next steps.
They figured out the next step pretty quickly, drafting Ja Morant right that summer. And I want to make sure listeners know, Curtis himself is not a jinx in terms of the Grizzlies going backwards after that. But the pictures you post on Instagram sometimes, I don't want to say it, sometimes do result in losses. That's why I had to tell you, right, stop posting. I'd always text you. I'd always start up on your story and say, Curtis, man, like you got to stop, because you'd post one and you guys would lose a close game and you wouldn't post and like it'd be a 30-point blowout. I'm like, Curtis, man, the basketball gods are telling us something here. Maybe we shouldn't be posting on Instagram. All fun, man. But definitely, right, incredible thinking about your time, right, with Memphis and in the beginning there, right? And it's crazy how it only took 2 months, right? And the opportunity presented itself. But you, right, let's say, right, hypothetically, in October of that year when you took the job with the Hustle, you're like, yeah, like I'm not really, I don't really, I'm trying to go with the pro team. I don't really want to work with the G League. I'll pass on this one. You'd never be with you were with the team 2 months later just because of how things worked out. It's crazy to me to think about how that could have happened if maybe you didn't really embrace the opportunity, and you didn't. It obviously it's paid off much faster than you would have expected or anyone would expect. But that's kind of the things you have to do sometimes is take that leap of faith. And it obviously all worked out for you now, where you've been with the Grizzlies for what it's been now the last 2 years. Obviously, all that stuff is great in thinking about your time with the Grizzlies, right? With acquisition of Ja Morant, right? Things have been going in the upward trajectory for that franchise, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I like to add too, like just because like I went, 2 months in the G League to the Grizzlies, like everybody's journey, as people say, are all different. Like I remember the next season started, like they hired like 3 people that didn't even work in the G League. Like they went straight to the Grizzlies, and I was like, I worked in the G League, and they were like, how long you been? I was like, I've been here like 4 months. And I want to say that's when the season like got cut off too. Or no, it didn't. Toronto won championship that year. That was the following year, like it got cut because of the COVID. But I was like, I started in the G League, and like, they started the NBA team. So like everybody's journey is like completely different. Nobody's gonna be like the same at all. Just, I would say just, hard work definitely will stand out to your boss. And eventually, even if you're at the bottom, you will reach the top.
So Definitely, right. Incredible stuff, right? In finally getting that opportunity and finally work with the Grizzlies. I mean, what were some of those initial roles you had? I mean, working with them because definitely they've evolved over the last few years. But maybe those first ones, being a team attendant and being brand new as a team attendant. I mean, what were those initial duties like?
Like when I first come in, as it is with most jobs, like you're kind of at the bottom, or I wouldn't even say bottom, but like you do the jobs that you have to wait, over time to get where a guy either leaves or like just do a job exceptionally well. And like they like, well, I think he'll be better doing this. Actually, I just started out like rebounding for the guys that were out there warming up as a team attendant and like just getting the towels and stuff out for them before the game, Gatorade towels. Pretty much that pretty much is it, honestly, just rebounding and making sure the towels are folded in the back of the locker room. So that way when they need to refurbish the stuff in the back for the guys, once they get done warming up or working out, that is could, dry off, take a shower, whatever they need to do. So that's pretty much all I did, actually, like just starting and coming on. That was pretty much my role. I would do that, do it effectively, ask my boss for it, like, you good? You need anything else before I go? And, I would just, go.
Definitely, right. Going is the name of the game, and you've done nothing but that the last few years. And right, we kind of spoke about a little bit about when we were doing with the Grizzlies originally, that 2019 year, that 2020 year, but that 2020 obviously got cut short due to COVID. And I'm curious, right? I mean, with the pandemic having really maybe shut the whole world down, basketball, of course, for the Grizzlies for those following months. Maybe what you were doing in the meantime before going to the bubble. I know you started a show. You were doing some kitchen stuff to keep yourself busy. I mean, what did that time look like for you in maybe the most unprecedented time in pro sports?
Yeah, man, it definitely was weird. Like I had got a job, working like a job. Like I definitely still to this day, if they call me back, I would go back to see myself like working for it was Memphis tourism. Like I literally just started, I would say like January, February, and it's like when COVID like was here, but like it wasn't on the news like it was like in the following months in March when everything got shut down. I was working there, like we were getting ready like to meet with Ice Cube because the Big Three was coming to Memphis. Zach Randolph was going to be playing in it. Sure, that was going to be like a moneymaker for us. And just a lot of bringing people in, like meeting with people, events that were coming into Memphis and trying to get their hotels booked and that type of thing. Imagine going from that like job that you love, still able to do the Grizz stuff part-time, want to work in the NBA, obviously, and like both of them like get took from you like just like that. It just was like amazing. I was kind of like stunned. I'm like, man, like got a job that I like this full time. If I never make it in the NBA, like that I definitely could see myself doing in the future. And I actually got laid. Well, I didn't not laid off from the Grizzlies, but like obviously the COVID stopped the season. So like you go from like I'm not like leaving work from my full-time job to go to the FedEx Forum, which is like 2 minutes away from where I was working, and like you're working all day and night, and excited for the game, and season just canceled. So at Memphis Tourism, probably I would say another 2-3 months, they call me. Obviously, like a lot of people got laid off. So like it's nothing against me. Everybody was, was getting laid off because of the money thing and stuff like that. Get laid off. And then like it's basically like I have nothing to do. Like for the first time, I would say in like 4 or 5 years, I go from like working 3 or 4 jobs, like nonstop. I'm always on the go to like I'm at home like everybody else. I'm sure you probably at home too, like just sitting at home, like you can't do nothing. Like we didn't know what COVID was at the time, like how it spread. So like you're just sitting up in the house, like, man, there's nothing to do. So I'm like, what can I do? Like in the meantime, obviously, like I told you earlier, like I always wanted to do journalism to a certain extent, not the writing, but I was like, I want to make my own show, kind of like what you're doing now. And I was like, well, I'm going to make a show, end up coming with the name. If you guys want to look it up, it's No Nonsense with a K. I'm definitely going to start back on it too. I'm going to have to get you as a guest too, bro. Started that up and I did that. I would say like I had episodes rolling in, like reaching out to people. And like this was obviously like the best time to reach out to people. And I'm sure you could attest to that because everybody at home. So like, you DM assistant coach, or it's like now he can be like, well, I can't respond, or like I'm busy, I got workouts. Like, no, all us sitting at home. So like they have nothing but time, and like that's like the best time to pick their brain for advice, or like reaching out to people trying to, just trying to get into the business. Obviously with COVID, they're not hiring, but just getting that connection or networking definitely is going to help you down the road. And kind of what I did, like, and got my show rolling. And I would say I got a email from the NBA about working at the bubble. And I promise you, I read it like 2 or 3 times. Like, is this real? Because I heard all the rumors, just like you, I'm sure you saw on like TV, like I did, like NBA's trying to start do a restart with the NBA bubble, but we don't know what's going to happen, or like, is it going to happen with COVID? and got the email and did a little Zoom call like I'm doing with you. They just kind of went over what was going to happen at the bubble, like procedures they were taking to make sure everybody was safe, you know, not just the players, but everybody that was there. So we all would be safe our time there. And we were. And man, I went down there and like all this happened, man, all this happening, like I was sitting at home, didn't have anything to do. And I think back to like things happen for a reason, because had I been at Memphis tourism, you know, full time, they probably wouldn't let me went to the bubble. And at the same instance, like without COVID, I would have never been able to go to the bubble and work for the NBA. So like, you know, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, you would say. And like the other job I had before Memphis tourism, they still were working. I would have probably not got laid off there. So like I had to make a decision like, well, either I'm going to leave this job, you know, and go to the NBA bubble, or like it's just stay at this job. So like things happen in a mysterious way. Like I still think about that. Like if I was at the other job, I would have to like make a decision like, well, I'm gonna leave here, go work at the bubble. I say like it's easier now. I probably would have been like, I definitely would have left, but you just never know with your head at, you know, being that you would still be with the job and COVID going on, you never know what you would do at that instance. But, you know, end up going, working at the NBA bubble, man, it was a lot of fun times. Definitely an experience I'll never forget, you know, getting to work the NBA finals between the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers was awesome. Have bragging rights over my boss because I'm like, I worked the NBA finals game and he hasn't worked one. And he's been with the Grizzlies for a while now. So just, you know, amazing feeling to be like, well, I worked the NBA finals game. I know a lot of people that have been with organization. I'm sure you can attest to this, like, have never worked the NBA finals game before. Like we see them on TV all the time. And, you know, the past couple of years, it's like been the same two teams going. So unless you've been with Golden State, who's the other team? Golden State, Toronto when they went there one year. Who was LeBron? Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like I want to say Miami so bad, but Cleveland, like you like literally would not have worked the NBA finals game. Like you've been just like me, and I've been with the Grizzlies, and chances are, you know, we probably wouldn't have made the NBA finals. You never know, but you know, we probably wouldn't have been the NBA finals. Like, and I would never work the NBA finals game. So like, it was amazing to me. Like I literally went from like doing nothing to watching basketball, working the basketball game every single day, getting to watch the game as I'm working. And it just was an amazing feeling. Like I'm getting paid to like watch basketball all day, and there's nobody there. Like obviously there were no fans, like you had the virtual noise. So I got to see that firsthand, like with the no noise, it's the virtual noise that you hear, and like players having to obviously pump themselves up because you don't have the fans there. And as you can see, like it took an effect on some of the players there because you had some guys that weren't playing good. You know, use Paul George as an example. He was like, you know, obviously mental health is a serious thing. You're just like, man, it's different. Like playing here, I can, you know, see my wife, my kids, you know, just a very difficult thing not be able to see my family, and just having to play basketball is like the main thing. And you had guys like TJ Warren, you know, he had like 40 points. He was dropping like 40 points just about every other game. And he's still don't get me wrong, he's a good ball player, but like he was dropping 40 points a game. It was kind of like a old session of like pick up basketball in the sense, except like you had a coach and he was subbing you out. It's like you got to come in, he goes out. Kind of like just old pickup. There's no fan noise, and like you're just shooting, like you don't hear the boos or anything. Like you missed 30 shots, nobody's gonna be like, hey John, you suck, get John up out of the game. You're not hearing the crowd. Or if you're hitting 10 shots in a row, you don't hear anything. It's like silence. You hear the virtual noise, but it's not like a real, you know, fan yelling at you and screaming at you. So I would definitely say it affected some of the players more than others, because the bubble, you know, a lot of guys were just like, man, who is this guy? You're like, who is this guy right here? I don't even know who he is, but he's averaging like 30 points when he's averaging like 5 or 6 in the regular season, and you know, before COVID. So definitely weird, but definitely an amazing time as well.
Super weird, of course. I mean, it's what everyone's been saying for months now. But the biggest takeaway I took from that is that, you know, your life or what you're doing, there's no nonsense in that, right? I mean, one of the things, right, your Instagram is full of pictures of you in those NBA Finals games that you're working, standing next to LeBron James. And obviously, right, you have to keep it professional. So I'm curious, like, how do you keep it no nonsense and not fangirl over, you know, when maybe one of your childhood idols or the greatest players of all times in front of you, and you got to stick to working? I'm sure that's happened to you multiple times, right, working with the Grizzlies. How do you make sure that there's no nonsense?
Yeah, definitely. Like start off like, obviously, like LeBron's a great basketball player, and I've been asked this question like 1,000 times. Like I'll never forget like the game that it happened. Like I think people got like 2 or 3 shots at me like standing beside him, like rebounding or doing something for him. My Apple Watch was blowing up literally. Like my hand just kept vibrating. I'm like, man, what's going on? Like, I'm thinking, it's like ESPN alert, like, COVID related or something I'm happening. Like my watch is steady blowing up. I'm like, man. So like after I like got off, I think LeBron, he might have been like the last person warm up or something. I can't remember. I had a break. Go back and look at my watch, and I just see all this stuff like on my social media on IG, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm like, man, what's going on? I'm like, something happened? And go back and I see like people posting this picture. I'm like, oh, they got me like standing right beside LeBron. And like, it's easier for me. I can say this because I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan. So like LeBron has like never, I would say, been like my favorite player, but he's definitely a good basketball player and I respect him. But it just was different for me because I kind of like, it's LeBron. And of course, working with the Grizzlies, I'm around these guys 24/7. So I never was like, oh man, that's LeBron, or that's, I just like, treat him like a regular person. And, that's how the guys want to be treated anyway. So I never was like, oh man, I'm standing right beside LeBron. Like the picture just happened because people were laughing at me because they like, man, I can believe you got like a picture with LeBron because they know Kobe's my favorite player. And I was like, yeah, things happen, Yeah, just working. It happened to get like a shot with LeBron when he was warming up before the finals games. But it definitely was amazing, seeing, watching him play and Jimmy Butler as well, watching him go back and forth. Amazing time. Like I said, if you ask me, like I had a picture with LeBron, especially kind of like a photo bomb type thing, I'd be like, nah, never. You would never see me in a picture with like LeBron. I'd be like, no. But now, like, it's kind of everywhere. Like, everywhere I go, like, people still ask me about it. Like, man, what's like you got a picture with LeBron, even though it's not like a picture with us, like, throwing up peace sign, whatever you don't want to say, like him over my shoulder, tall as he is. But it's like, I got a picture with LeBron. So definitely an amazing time. And like, it was on TV too, like ABC or something. So like, it was amazing. All the people at home like texting me and stuff like, man, we see you on TV. We see you right beside LeBron or J.R. Smith or Morris. It just was amazing.
Definitely an incredible experience. And the fun thing that I'm taking away from that is that you're having an experience like that at such a young age. There's so many more of those coming. Maybe an NBA final trip for the Grizzlies. Hopefully that's soon. I'm not entirely sure when that'll happen, but definitely, right. So, there's so much basketball, right, and so many experiences like that to be had. It's definitely awesome thinking about that. But I mean, another experience you had, right? Maybe it was your first time, right, seeing the Grizzlies in the playoffs, right, sitting there courtside, being a part of that with maybe the COVID restrictions, right, finally loosening up. I mean, what did this season kind of look like? I mean, were you guys always there on staff in person at the games? Did they kind of ease everybody in? Like, how did that play out?
Hey, John, I don't mean to cut you off, but you could ask me, like, what's the most interesting thing that happened at the bubble, and I can tell you, because, like, I ain't told. Probably, like, 4 people know about this. If you want to do that one now or after this.
Oh, go for it. No, I would say just go for it right now.
Cool. Oh,
just drop it.
Oh, and another thing a lot of people don't know, man, like, I would say, like, the most interesting thing that happened to me down there was, like, Brandon Ingram. I think he didn't play this game, whatnot. I don't know what the reason was at all. But I was in there rebounding for them. I want to say he warmed. I don't even remember if he warmed up or not. But like I was in there. I was obviously helping the Pelicans. I was on the Pelican side this time, like helping Lonzo rebound. And it was somebody else. I can't remember who the guy was. But like Lonzo, I think he just had got done warming up. And I kind of just like standing there. And like Brandon Ingram, he walks in. He was like, hey, man, you want to play horse? And I'm like, he's talking to me? And I'm like, sure. So like we played horse or whatnot. And I kid you not, I gave him HO. And after that, like he started shooting. I missed a shot and he started shooting deep threes and I never recovered and he beat me. So like, that's like one of the most interesting things that happened to me. I got to play horse with Brandon Ingram, like randomly. Like it was like unplanned, like it just happened out of the blue when he walked in and we played horse and I gave him HO, gave NBA player HO. And then like, obviously, he started shooting too deep for me.
That's how they'll get you, man. I mean, it's at a certain point. That's the difference. But I'm curious, what were the 2 shots you got the HO on? Were they bounce off the floor? Were they behind the backs? Like, what'd you do to get at that HO?
They actually just were like free throw jumpers. Like
really?
Wow. That he hits all the time. Like I got him an HO on that. Then he goes like to 3-point land and like I didn't hit a shot.
Oh, that's funny. I remember there's the one video of LeBron playing horse with a fan and he's doing like the behind the backboard thing, throwing it over and then back in. So like definitely some really creative stuff. And it's funny, right? Thinking about an experience like that of playing horse with an NBA player. I mean, how is that ever going to happen, or who would get that, right? There's obviously the grind that we just spoke about that came before that to set up a really cool experience. That, I mean, I had no idea about that story. So thanks for sharing that one. That's definitely a fun one. But I mean, right, then kind of transitioning to, right, you had all that fun in the bubble. Then, of course, when the bubble's over, this season actually officially started. I mean, what did that season? I mean, this season, of course, has been a whirlwind for everybody. I mean, with the Grizzlies, for example, what was it like kind of usually bringing fans back in? Like, how long did that take? And then even for the staff, right? I mean, was the whole staff in the whole time, or did they kind of bring you guys in little by little?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely was. I would say it wasn't as weird for me because I was at the bubble with no fans. So like, obviously to me, when I got there, like, I would say the biggest difference for me was like, I was actually we were in a big facility, obviously with like chairs versus at the bubble. Like it wasn't any like, bleachers or, chairs that you could sit in. That's kind of was the only difference for me. But like being there, I was just like, man, it's like so big and empty. But as far as the feeling, I'm like, I've done this before, and it was just kind of like, an empty building is like pick up basketball. So like for me, like didn't kind of change. I know at first, like we're one of the teams that didn't have any fans. I think it was only like 2 that started out with fans. It might have been like the Heat or something, like in Florida, not 100% for sure. But slowly, like we generally, I think, let fans in, and it kind of got like a little back to normal. Still wasn't like the normal until like we got to the end towards like the playoff run, where I think we had like 40% capacity, something around that, along those lines, 30%. And you actually could hear the fans, over the sound that they make. I can't think of what it's called right now, but the sound that they were making, the holographic sounds, whatever they were making, the noises, like you could hear the genuine fans like screaming and hollering at the players, hollering at the refs, like it was back. You're like, man, we're back. Like the fans are back. So it definitely was an amazing time. And like, far as like staff go, I think like even that was limited. I'm not 100% for sure, but I think even that was limited to like a certain extent. Like, then you really didn't want anybody there because COVID's still brand new. So like you don't want like anybody to get infected, whether it's players, staff, whoever the case may be. You don't want anybody to get sick or something like that. So still, it was just like a limited amount of people. And NBA made it work though. Congrats to them. Finished the season, and next season, according to Shams, like it's progressed to start on time. So we'll be back on the time frame like we were with I think October start date with preseason and regular season type thing, and it'll be back to normal. And playoff games with the Grizzlies, so they were amazing, even though we lost both of them. But just getting to see Ja, Dylan, and all the guys play very well. Because we're being a small market team, we don't get a lot of TV games for everybody to see it. Because I know you were like, I didn't know much about the Grizzlies till you met me. He was like, Ja's awesome, Dylan's awesome, Jaren's awesome. Just like for people to see, like we have actually a good young team that people don't know about. And like Ja averaged, I think he averaged like 30 points in the playoffs. He went from like averaging like 18, 19 in the regular season to up 10, 11 points, averaging 30. Dylan Brooks averaging, I think, like 25, 28 points, something around that along those lines. And like, I think the beauty of it, like Jaren Jackson didn't even like play until the end of the season. And he probably played like 15, 18 games. So you take into account, he really didn't play the whole year. We made the playoffs. We beat the Golden State Warriors in the play-in this year, lost at the bubble, but won it this year in the regular season to play in to get the AC to go against Utah. You just like, man, the future is so bright. Like Jaren didn't even play, until the end of the year. And like, we look like a real good team that's going to be growing. And we had the youngest team in the NBA playoffs this year. And a lot of those games you actually look at, I know we won the first one in Utah. We beat them in Utah. Donovan didn't play. We beat them in Utah for game 1, but a lot of those games you look at, even game 2, we came all the way back from like 20 points. And obviously a game we could have won. Then we got it down to like 2 or 1 point at the end of the third quarter. But Utah, kept the lead, pulled away, with the victory, obviously. But you look at that game 2, obviously one I felt like we definitely could have won. And game 3 and 4 at home, we could have won those as well because we were in the game. We were just kind of even jotting them, say like make a knuckleheaded mistake. And Utah, you can't do that with a team, especially that's the 1 seed because they're still playing right now against the Clippers. Just can't make those kind of mistakes. And Utah made us pay with a 3-pointer or whatever they did. Mike Conley played amazing. Just a learning lesson for us. And definitely, I think in the future, we'll be ready next year when next year comes, hopefully make another good run in the playoffs, go to the playoffs, have a good regular season. And, I think it's just a matter, like Coach Jenkins was saying, and Ja is learning how to close games out. And, I think the feeling like they got at the bubble of being there, but you get put out by Portland in the play-in when you played like all year to be in the playoffs, but play-in happening, you don't get to play in the playoffs, like that feeling of like, man, we were right there. I think they can, take that same energy or that same attitude towards like, man, we were right there again with Utah. We were playing in 1 seed and like we had a legit chance to beat them in game 2, 3, and 4. Like, we could have won either of those games outside of game 5, when they just kind of like were hitting everything and did not miss. You'd be like, man, we could have beat those guys and possibly made it to the second round, be playing the Clippers right now. So, just a little motivation for the offseason and to like, obviously everybody, like I said, got to see Ja and Dylan and Jaren, Jonas, Kyle, like us have a good team. We like Grizzlies have like a good young team and they're going to be on the uprise soon.
Definitely one of the brightest futures in the league, and especially right considering like what you said about having the youngest team in the playoffs, but not even just that, showing resiliency. I feel like whenever a young team is able to show maturity in the playoffs, that's just obviously a really good sign for 2, 3, 4 years, the years to come. When a team's young and it's their talent that takes them over the top. Maybe that's not that, but they really just going down by 20 in game 2, clawing their way back. That's something that a lot of maybe young teams wouldn't do. So it's great seeing the Grizzlies do that, and obviously I was watching them a lot more now after meeting you than I did ever before. I'm trying to find, can I find Curtis in the stands? Where is he? Tell my friends, my guy's there. My guy's there right now. He's in there. He's over there in that corner. Really, sometimes finding you. But definitely, right. Really fun seeing the Grizzlies team this year. Can't wait to see the next year. And I mean, Curtis, dude. I mean, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a really fun one. Obviously, right, we've spoken a lot before this, but I never really got to hear the whole story from the source itself and go through your whole thing and how you got to where you are. And so glad to have met you and can't wait to see you soon.
Man, it was a pleasure, John, man. Thanks for reaching out to me. Pleasure being on your show, man. Wish you nothing but the best. Hopefully, like you said, like we'll see each other in Summer League or like passing eventually in like the next couple of months. I have to get you on my show definitely once I started back. I'm going to start it back soon, but you're definitely going to be on the top of my list to get on there for the guests, man. Thanks for having me on your show, man. Definitely was a blessing and much success to you.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.